We need that music. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I'm joined today by my good friend from Down Under. It's Jeff Blanchard. How are you, Jeff?
Good, thank you, Rick. And I think my picture keeps going out of focus. It keeps focusing on my microphone, I think. Keep going slightly out
how
of
funny. What camera is that? Is that the Panasonic?
Panasonic, but it's this, I think it's the microphone that's that thing. Yes,
Interesting.
I'll take that off. I think
joining us in studio, we've also got Harold Muliati, who'll be joining us in a moment. And here we go.
This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation. Digital learning development, media development, corporate video, management consulting, and more. Visit us at www.relate.com. Thanks.
And we are back, and there's Harold.
Hello, Harold.
Here I am.
Here I am. Anyway, well, today we wanted to talk a little bit about monitors. There's quite a few new monitors that are coming out. Some of them are pretty interesting. It's been a weird year because of COVID and all the other BS. We can't really do trade shows. So some of these made it to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. None of these made it to NAB because the NAB was virtual. So you had people filming themselves in makeshift booths looking like they were at a show, but they weren't. But we have Asus has some new monitors. And, you know, now Jeff, you have the iMac, which has a 5K monitor. I've got the same iMac 5K monitor. I also have that LG secondary monitor, which is the what is that called? What is the LG called? Something sharp. Ultra fine.
Sharp? Well, ultra
it's
fine.
the ultra fine. I forgot the model number, but I think it's a 5K. It may only be a 4K, but it's a one that supposedly.
I think it's a 4K.
I think you're right. I think it is 4K. It's not a 5K, but it makes a good secondary monitor for the 5K because they're very close in color and everything else. And from what I've read in the past, LG does make the Apple monitor, so therefore it's the same DNA in it. And that's a pretty good monitor. It's not bad at all. It has, but it's so Mac based you can't use it on anything else, which is good and bad. There's no power switch. It gets powered by the Thunderbolt 3 cable, and there's no other inputs other than Thunderbolt 3, and you've got some USB 3.1Cs, I think. So it's an interesting monitor, but that's already been out for over a year, and it's got pretty good brightness. I think it's at least 600 nits of brightness, so it's a very bright monitor. But we were looking, Asus has some new monitors that just came out, and these are the professional line of monitors. Harold, which one was that? Was that
one of the ones we were looking at was this Asus ProArt PA32 UCX PK. Rick and I were joking earlier. They always have such distinctive names for these things, but and this is a 32-inch monitor
it's not out yet.
Yeah, it's not out yet. They announced it at CES and NAB this year, and this one goes up to 1200 nits on the brightness. So that's a very bright monitor. It's even brighter than, for example, we commonly use the Atomos Shinobi monitor for our cameras, and at 1000 nits peak brightness outdoors in daylight, you can see it. So 1200 nits is
So if you want to carry your 32-inch monitor outdoors with you, you can.
I'm just trying to see all these blind editors because with all this bright monitors showing.
and it is gonna hurt some eyes. They're now doing studies that very, very bright monitors or very bright lights, especially LEDs and stuff, will possibly cause retinal damage in people. So that is something to think about. All the Mac lovers who have Macs, they may be blind in another 5 years. Who knows?
Who said that?
Yeah.
And another one of the selling points of that monitor in particular was that it has 1,152 dimmable zones.
Yeah, the local dimming zones. What those do is that means you don't get the parts where things bleed out or are too bright or too low when you have areas that are close to each other, but not quite right. On an IPS monitor, that's a real problem usually, because you'll have areas where it just kind of bleeds. The whites bleed through, and on these they don't. Because with all 1,000, and before that, we had 384. So we have almost tripled the amount of zones. I think we have tripled the amount of zones, actually. It's a little over 1,000. And that makes it so that everything is always at the right color, temperature, brightness, and everything else. It's pretty amazing. We have at home, we have a 75-inch Sony TV that has 24 dimmable areas. So it's like a matrix. And again, the colors on that are pretty incredible because it never varies. You can have a very black area and a very light area, and it's always correct. And if it bleeds from one area to another, it's perfect. It just handles it. So the monitors are getting very fancy, very advanced in what they do. Anything else on that monitor that was special? I think it was only about 137 pixels per inch, though, right?
Yeah. Well, it's 32 inch at 4K. It's going to be about 137 pixels per inch.
Mm-hmm.
It's I believe you mentioned the 384 dimmable zone one. Was on the previous generation of this one, which was just called the PA32UC.
UC, which you can still buy for about, I think, $1,100 or $1,200.
Yeah, it's like around that.
And that used to be $2,000 when it first came out. We don't know the price of the new one, but from what we're reading, it might be close to $4,000.
Well, I think Asus listed like 4,500 on their
4,500.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah.
Now, is this monitor aimed at the video editor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Content creators, video, photo editors, animators, anybody that's doing more content creation. It's not the fast. I think it's only 60 hertz, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, with video editing and that sort of thing, you're not generally going to be editing anything at any faster than 60 frames per second. So 60 hertz is generally going to be just fine for that.
The only ones that seem to not like that is the gamers, because but they're really fast things. You're never going to do that if you've got that in a video. Well, you can't. It's just moving to it blares anyway. It doesn't make any difference,
right?
Which is
anyway. But
the thing with the fast refresh rates is kind of funny because CRTs used to actually give you really high refresh rates. Some of them would, being able to get up to like 144 was actually pretty common, at least with the more recent CRTs. So we kind of, I guess, in terms of refresh rate, went back a little bit, but now it's kind of back to that point.
Yeah, but as I said, it's only the game, because I was looking for a monitor recently, and it's just so hard. You see all these things. It's, this one there, it does so much refresh. It's so fast, and but most of even the cheapest one, even the gamers say it does a pretty good job anyway.
Yeah, it does.
Just not an excellent job. You might just have a slight difference, but
we have one for you, Jeff. As we were talking about gaming monitors for you, we got the Asus Swift. 27-inch. Is it 4K? I think it's 4K.
Yeah, this one was a 4K 27-inch, 144 hertz.
Which for 4K is very fast. And it does, and that has dimmable zones too, right?
Yes, I don't quite remember how many
this was 1,000.
This one was a 384 zone.
Oh, that's 384 or 384,
which is still a lot, mind you. And I think I might be wrong in this. I think the dimmable zone relates to the backlights, right? Like, so certain kinds of LEDs will need backlights. Like most LEDs will need backlights.
No, it creates a matrix. It's 1,000 dimmable matrices. It's a matrix of areas. So all area, you could light a group of zones and not another group. So it's how it breaks the screen up into a matrix of 1,000, or in this case 384 zones. And so what therefore is for color consistency and brightness across the whole monitor. Because in IPS monitors, it's really common to have one area either bleed through the blacks or be too dim or too bright. And it looks funky when you start getting across the monitor. With this gets rid of about all of that. So it's very, very clean.
Well, yes, but I think that's mainly relevant to LEDs that require backlights.
Probably. Yeah, because it's not OLED. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with monitors, the biggest thing I reckon that's taken monitors down for me over the years is like I'm looking at here. I'm looking at a 23-inch Acer monitor that I've had for 10 years. It's got a non-reflective screen, so it's got no reflective. But I think it's one of the better monitors than the other ones. I just hate this non-reflective because it takes so much away from it. You can't. Are they all non-reflective? I still quite like that reflective because you seem to get a better picture. It's like the old days when you had the glossy photos or the matte. Everybody had the matte, but the glossy one still looked a little bit better. So
is that a glossy screen?
Yeah, this one is.
It's glossy.
It doesn't have that, but all of the good ones seem to, it's an anti-glare which makes it so flat, like the iMacs aren't, but they reflect. But that's why they give such a really good screen, a good view on them. But this one, they're all anti-glare, aren't they? These ones.
Well, we were talking earlier. We were looking at behind where Harold sits. There's two monitors, another workstation with two monitors, and they're the Dell. I forgot the model number, but they're the 32-inch high-end ones. They're like $1,200 each, and those are matte, and they're pretty dark, and it only has 300 nits, so it's not very bright anyway. And it doesn't have a real wide angle of view. As you go to the sides, it really dims up. So, yeah, you're right. It doesn't look very lifelike when you look at things. It looks rather dull.
And like I have that for my work things, which is fine. You don't care for work things. It's good to have it nice and not too much, too bright and all that. But I've got one of the Dell, new 27-inch Dells, and that's really nice because they're getting so big, the screens.
Yeah.
But the casing's getting so small that you get a 27-inch and it's about the same size as your old 24-inch.
I know.
Yeah.
Now, that 27-inch is probably the same one Harold has on his desk, which is a 350 nit one, and it's really pretty sharp.
Yeah, that one's a pretty nice monitor, and that one's 350 nits compared to the 300 typical nits of that other monitor that Rick was just talking about. Although we were noticing something kind of interesting on how they tend to give you the specs on brightness and that sort of thing. We noticed that different brands will actually tell you, like Asus, for example, almost always tells you the peak brightness of their monitors, while we notice that Dell tends to say the typical brightness. So they're not actually telling you what's the brightest it can show. They're just kind of like, so that is one thing to look out for, I suppose. It kind of.
But even then, it's like in the old audio realm of things. They get, this is brighter, this is better. It's like the audio. So this is louder than that. And I always used to say, yeah, a train horn going past it's nice and loud, but it's not very pleasant to the ear. Something
that's
very
true too.
Quiet, but it's much nicer to listen to, and it's the same thing with that. Yes, it's got the brighter things, but is it blaring out there? Something that's with lower might just look at the ear. I think we are all conned by high specs, and so if one's got 1,000 nits, well, we're never going to get the 500 nits because 500 more has got to be better.
Yeah.
Well, but you know what's funny about 1,000 nits? That's not your working brightness. That probably maxes out 450 or 500 nits. 1,000 is when you're watching a movie and something goes really bright for a moment. And then it goes up to 1,000. And then it goes right back down to probably 500, 450. So when you get 1,000, it's a little misleading because people think, wow, I'm going to watch this at 1,000. Your eyes would burn out at 1,000. You would be there going, I'm bleeding. It would be that bad. It would cause a lot of damage in your eyes. Do the test. If you look at a screen and then close your eyes and look away, if it's that bright, you'll still see it for a while. And that will cause issues with the retina. So you don't want something that bright.
Well, now, and then to be fair, like myself, for example, I usually use monitors at between 30 and 50% brightness. So I don't necessarily take full advantage of the brightness, but it is one of those things where it's like, oh, it's you get excited because it's there.
Well, see, Harold's eyeglasses are really a ruse. If he lifts his eyes up, they burn you. He's like the X-Man. He's like
that X-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Get the name of the character, but yeah, it just
Gambit.
lifts his.
What was his name?
I think it's Gambit, or is it Cyclops? I don't remember.
Cyclops.
No, Cyclops, I think, yeah.
How many? There's 7 films, and we still can't remember the names.
I know. Well, I had all the comic books growing up. Jeez.
We still don't remember them.
What was his name? Angel was the guy with the wings.
I think it was Cyclops.
Cyclops.
With
No,
the
but
guy
his
with
real
the-
name. He had a real name. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I'm not too, yeah.
All right, Harold. Look it up. We need to know. This is terrible.
So that's another thing now, Rick. You've got me going now with that monitor you suggest for me, because like I said, I've got this Acer monitor that's been here for 10 years. I might replace that with a nice 20, because this is the one connected to the eye.
That 27-inch Asus Swift it's not cheap though. That's $1,000 monitor. I went, whoa, but it's really nice. So it's got the dimmable zones. It's got real nice brightness. That's an excellent monitor. You can watch videos on that thing beautifully.
Okay, so looking it up, Cyclops, also known as Scott Summers or Slim Summers.
Scott Summers, that's it. Yeah. I
it.
totally forgot that.
But I can't even now you've said it, that doesn't sound familiar to me.
I remember, but now that you said it, I remember Scott Summers. But Cyclops, that was his kind of name. And then there was Angel. He was the guy with the wings. And what was her name? I don't remember the names on half of these.
Yeah.
Well, all I remember is Magneto.
Magneto.
And I can't forget what Patrick Stewart's name was. What was his name?
Charles Xavier.
Yes, that's
right.
He
played Charles Xavier. That's right.
What was his character? Did he have another name?
Professor X.
Professor X. He was, Professor X.
Yeah.
That's right. Anyway, but I bet you that Cyclops was looking at one of those 1,000-nit monitors too high, and that's what
he may have been. And then what really happened is he burned Dr. Xavier's hair off, and he became bald. We know the inside story to all these things.
That's right. I think we're getting off subject a little bit.
Displays. Let's go back to displays. Now, were there any other Asus we wanted to talk about? I think that was it,
Those
right?
were, I believe,
now, Rick, I've been seeing with the displays you're looking at, I know a lot of them have the USB connection, which power the USB laptops and charge them. Would that have that as well?
Some of them do.
That's a big advantage.
I don't think the Asus do. I think the LG we have does, but barely.
Yeah.
And that doesn't that also as well do the video signal through it as well? Some of them
do. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So all you have to have is your laptop. So you don't have the power supply. You don't have an HDMI cable going through it. So it makes the desktop so much more inviting. You just go click in. And so you don't need a docking station. You just need one darn cable.
Just one cable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It even made me want to get just a laptop that I can do that with. So
now we did look, to replace your 24-inch. We think we have a better solution than the Asus, and that's the Dell. Dell has a 43-inch.
I was just going to no 48. You've got to have the 48.
What is that? 48 or 43?
The one we were looking at here was the 43, but
there's 43. There may be a bigger one.
Well,
look at the Dell 48. It's $21.99.
Yeah.
We were also looking at this one that Dell announced their 86-inch 4K.
86-inch.
Oh, is it a monitor or a TV?
Yes. And it's a touch screen.
Yeah,
and it's only $8,000, Jeff.
That's right. Well, that's right. Yeah, you're $5,699 on special.
Oh, it's on sale.
Oh, it's on sale. Wow.
That's still only $9,000 my dollars. So
that's right. Yeah, because it was $8,000 when we looked at it earlier.
7,599. It says, and now it's reduced to 5,699. So you can see how much.
What a deal! You could almost buy 2 of them now.
Yeah,
and you can get it 55, 70, 75, and 86 inch.
Yep.
Wow.
But that 43-inch is actually a monitor. It's on a TV. And they had a picture of it where you see somebody playing with they have 4 screens on it at once. Now, if you think about it, 43, it's only 3 inches bigger than a normal 40-inch TV, which I have in front of me right now. It's not that huge. It's big. I don't know how text would render on it, though. My concern is that text would be pixelated a little bit.
Yeah, that's
at that size.
You think it would be?
most likely.
All the things you hear around the place when you get to those sizes, people are always saying, "Yeah, the text is okay, but it's just slightly off." So they still think the two 27-inch monitors
are a better bet.
Because that 48 is exactly two 27-inch monitors, but I think it's still better to have two 27-inch.
At home, I'm not using it right now, but I've got a 38-inch Dell ultrawide. And it's okay, but the problem is the wide is good, but the height is less than the normal 1440, for example. It's like 900 or 800. So you really lose some of that height on the screen, so it's not very realistic for a lot of applications.
No, but that's where I think that like the 43 and 48 are the true height. It's not that narrow one. But
my concern is if your eyes aren't that good, or if you've got glasses on, you're going to have to lean in from one side to the other, because that's quite a distance.
Well, the 48 is curved, so you don't. So it comes.
Oh, the 48
around.
Was curved.
Yeah,
okay.
Because it can. Because if it's
But
flat,
that's true. The 38 has a little bit of a curve too, just a mild curve.
Flat, you've got to look all the way over there.
That's tough.
Because when you have 27-inch monitors, you have one you're looking at and one angled in. So,
but Jeff, that 43-inch was only $840.
That's damn good price, isn't it? That's
it's
right.
Not bad. Not for that size.
And that's the thing is, when I keep looking at something, I'll go for a 27-inch. Oh, no, that 32-inch. No, oh, look, 43. And then before you know it, you can't fit it in on the damn desk.
And before you know it, you bought that 88-inch one, and you just can't resist it anymore.
It's only $1,000 more. Let's get the 88. It's on special. We're saving $3,000 at the moment. Let's get that.
That's a deal.
The thing is, though, I like with the Dell monitors is, they might not always be the best ones that you need to have, but the most I find reliable. They're a bit like the Canon photography thing, where if you get one, they don't seem to break down. They seem to be a nice quality monitor. Maybe not always. There's others that do better ones, different ones, but
yep. Now there was another Dell one we were looking at, right?
Let's see. There was the there was that other LG one that we didn't talk about yet. There was
the LG. LG has a new one coming out.
We were talking about this LG Ergo.
Well, no, this one's out. The Ergo is out, I think. This is a new one. It's cute. 27-inch. No, 32-inch.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Rick, with the LG, you just got to, the LG make a lot of the Dell ones for them.
They do. Then they also make the Apple ones. So they make Apple and Dell.
Which one is this LG doing in the Dell? Because if you like that one, but the funny thing is, the Dell seems to be cheaper.
Yeah.
It has different things on it. The screen's the same, but they put in different features from the LG.
This Ergo actually attaches to your desk. It's got a clamp. It doesn't have a stand, though it has a VESA mount if you want to put a portable stand on it. But it's kind of cute. It goes up and down, sideways, and tilts. Quite a bit of tilt, actually. Up and down tilt.
Yeah, up near the mounted, as you may be able to see in that picture, it's a little small, but it's got basically a ball joint that I think lets you just tilt it whichever way you want.
But the great thing with that one, it's one of the first monitors I've ever seen. Like, all of them have stands. This one has one that bolts to the desk.
Yes. Yeah.
It has its own thing, so you don't, because most people have these arms, so they throw away about $200 worth of stand that they've put in there. Whereas that one comes with a clamp. And so you can say, I'll just clamp two of them on the desk, and it makes it.
Now that LG, is that the one that was expensive, Harold, or?
This one was
700.
How much was it? It was 700.
This was 700, so it's not too bad. You get a 4K monitor with the ergonomic stand, which lets you move it in any which way. It's got was that 450 nits?
This one was 350 typical.
It was a little low. So the nits on this one were a little bit low for what you get. But what you get is a nice ergonomic monitor. So that may be good enough for most people.
Hey, I'll tell you, I'm looking at that Dell 48-inch, 43-inch for Australia. That's here costing me $14.99 for here, and you said $8.99.
That's not too bad.
Well, that's the difference from $8.99 American. Now it's $14.99. And what was that one you done? The LG
That one was $700. It doesn't say here, but
$700 here.
32.
And now that one has Thunderbolt 3 connections. It's got what did it have? It had HDMI and it had DisplayPort 1.4.
And I think it also had USB 3s.
And USB 3s.
You could charge off of
it didn't have Thunderbolt. It had two USB 3.1C ports.
Yeah, and you can charge stuff off of it.
But it only gives you 60 watts. And they said if you want to charge, like the iMac would only charge up to it has like an 80 watt, barely can charge it.
I'm just trying to see how much that is here.
Looks like that's about $12.30 Australian dollars.
This one here?
Just looking it up over, yeah.
Just trying to find one that if anybody's got it here. So.
And it is a 32-inch, so it's probably a pretty nice monitor. 350 is still bright enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a really nice monitor, though. And I do like the LG. They do a nice product as well. And I'm really taken with their TVs. I used to be just Sony through and through for years, but they just do the LGs have just been so reliable lately, and they're not too expensive. And let's face it, with anything like monitors, TVs, and that, you don't want them to. You don't care about if they don't last you 10 years because you're fed up with them after 5 years because technology's that done for you.
Yep.
It'll be something that you'll want to throw it away and get something new anyway. So, like in 10 years' time, you won't be on the same monitor.
That's true.
And if you don't do that much, you probably will do. But what really gets me, like, if we look back anything, it's only because we want to. If we go back to the old computers, like the old 286 computers, if it wasn't for all the graphics and all the whiz-bang things, most things people do with a computer, you could still do on them.
You could. Yeah. That's absolutely true.
Well, except for a lot of apps get kind of bloated because we have so much performance to work with.
But did we have any?
That's it.
Did we have any other monitors that we were looking at today?
Those were all the ones we were talking about earlier.
Now, there's another brand you may want to look at. They're coming from behind, and that's BenQ, BENQ. They're coming out with pretty good monitors right now that are cheaper. They have a $600-something one that is competing with some of the $1,000 ones. I don't know the quality. I've only had one BenQ and I turned it back in. So it didn't. I liked it, but the text rendering was lousy. So that's my concern. With a lot of these monitors, how well do they render text? Asus notoriously wasn't the best text renderer out there. So you always wonder, are they rendering text cleanly or are they really just strictly for media? Because I don't know if you guys have noticed sometimes when you're on like 4K or even 1080p, when you have so text, the text isn't like the same color consistent all the way through. You can almost see it dimming in places. Have you guys noticed that?
But that's the thing is with those that's the number one thing I want. It's the clear text. You can put up with the other thing being slight, but as I said, that's the main thing that people will use it all the time, reading emails, typing letters, doing documents, doing PowerPoint, doing
Jeff, I'm going to say something that might surprise you. It surprised Harold and me the other day. On that Alienware that we have, it's on the latest version of Windows 10, and I zoomed in on the Mac, and you could see, the text at it's a little ghosty. It's not perfect, at least in the standard like Outlook application or something. We did the same thing on the new version of Windows with a VA monitor, which is nowhere near the quality of an iMac monitor. The text rendering surprisingly looked a little bit sharper. They're doing something to sharpen it up. I was shocked that at that big, gigantic scaling, it was like, wow, you could actually really notice the edges and stuff.
Yeah, so, what they're doing is kind of interesting. Basically, when you zoom in so small, so strong that you would normally be seeing individual pixels as big squares, it's almost like interpolating it so it has like edges that are almost like vector edges rather than pixels. So for a lot of text, it makes it a little clearer looking. It may be a little more easy to read.
Yeah, we were surprised. It actually looked better than the iMac zoomed in. I was going, that's fascinating. That wasn't like that before. And the iMac doesn't look as good as it used to. See, they used to use Helvetica as the main font. They're not. They're using something else now. It's not as clean as Helvetica was.
Well, have you seen the rumors about the newer updated iMac that they reckon's going to happen?
I haven't heard the rumor. I knew they were talking about one this year, but what did they say?
It's going to maybe going up to 32-inch. And
finally.
And pretty much like, the iPad Pro type look with all one big thing, losing that big...
Oh, the bezels.
With the Apple thing, but just one big thing like the iPad Pro in that sort of style, and they said there's a lot of improvement. But as you said, you don't know until it comes out. But I thought that would be good because they said they really haven't changed it for 10 years.
No,
from the big fat one to the thin one.
There's no difference.
They've changed slight things, done different fans, but really when you look at them, they're the same.
Yep.
To get people to buy them again, you want something radically different, like you said. A 32-inch, that would make people go, even if everything else was the same.
So they're going to call it the Big Mac?
The Big Mac, that's right. But I think that somebody else has got that already down.
The Big iMac?
And looking it up, I guess their new font that they're using is a proprietary in-house created font called San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh, no wonder it sucks. Okay.
San Francisco is.
Yeah. That explains a lot. Yeah. What do you do with dispose heroin needles? I mean, geez. Anyway.
The piles of poop.
Frisco's a dump now. It used to be a beautiful city, and they've just destroyed it. Our idiot governor, who's now the governor, used to be the mayor of San Francisco. He just let that city go to hell. It's just disgusting. I think they did a count one day of the number of piles of poops over, I forgot how many square blocks. 25,000 piles of poops, human poops on the streets.
Well, yeah. There's I forget what it's called, but there's a website where they have like a live map where people report where the poop piles are, and they keep updating it.
It's disgusting. I mean, that was a beautiful city. I used to love San Francisco. Now it's like I don't even want to go there.
Oh well,
it's
they
wrong.
Must have a lot. So do they use monitors a lot in this?
Who knows? Anyway, well, we are out of time, and we covered a lot of monitors and a lot of ideas. So if you have any questions or if you can make recommendations, leave them in the show notes below. Let us know what monitors you like.
Harold, I think that what you said, that LG said $16.99 here. I found it.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Now, is that one out already, the Ergo? It looks like it is.
The LG 32UL 950, was that the one you
The Ergo. That's the Ergo. No, it's called the Ergo.
The one we were talking about earlier was the 32UN 880.
Oh, no, this was a 950, so this is...
And it has to say Ergo, E-R-G-O. That's the name of that model.
It says Nano, so it might not be out yet. So, anyway. Ergo. So
Ergo. And when you start getting into $4,000 or $5,000 monitors, that's pretty extreme. I don't know. The people buying that have to work in major studios or something, but that's a big... that's more than the iMac.
Even then, though, it's a sort of thing like, people pay that for a camera, but that you use 2 hours a week, if that. But we look at that if you're looking at it 8 hours a day for 3 days a week, you're certainly getting your money's worth out of it, aren't you? If it's something that makes it nice to look at, you certainly can justify it better than a camera, I think. So.
No, that's true. Anyway,
I mean, I think, same as with, mics and cameras, past a certain point, unless you're doing certain very specific tasks with it, you're getting real diminishing returns.
That's true.
Well, if we justified everything, we'd never buy anything. If we said, I can do without it.
And that music means we are out of time. We will see you folks next week on Tech Down Over. Have a good one, everyone. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.